Welcome to the channel. Today we're going to prepare you to take on the Cowabunga Cranked mode on Citadelle Day More. Cranked is the current LTM in Zombies, and it gives us a much more challenging mode to play through that in a way forces players to try their hand at a speedrun. If this seems out of your reach at the moment, stick around and hopefully we can prepare you to take it on yourself. Now, I did use some gums in the run here, but I'm not popping anything crazy like a perkaholic or a hidden power. So don't stress that, as they're not necessary to complete it. And if you want to see the full unedited run, then I'll post a link to that in the description. And any support you can give me with liking the video, subscribing to the channel would be really appreciated. Let's get into it. The first thing to know is that Cranked gives us access to the WonderFizz machine immediately. This early access to PhD Flopper means that we can run Citadelle in a different way by running the Mustangs right from the beginning. I went this route to make life as easy as possible whilst doing the Easter egg steps, and also because I wanted to learn how to run the boss fight with a sword. If you don't like this, however, you could just as easily come in with a bullet weapon, and my go-to choices here would be the GPM-G7 or the Val if your focus is on DPS, or you can also use the Compact since you benefit from the near-perfect hip-fire accuracy when it's pack-a-punched. Alternatively, if you really want to go for it, then the new D13 sector with the standard ammo type does absolutely wild damage to crit spots on the boss, and you won't be short of points to pack-a-punch it. Next up is power-ups. Cranked introduces 3 new power-up drops that help us, for the most part, get through the game. Slice of Pie partially fills the timer, Pizza Box maxes it all the way out to the top, and the last one, Turtle Power, gives us 30 seconds of a random turtle melee weapon that comes with gold rarity and pack-a-punch 3 times. I urge some caution here, as picking these up at the wrong time can be a killer. So let's talk about the timer, the key point in any Cranked match. As you move through the rounds, the timer gets smaller and smaller, eventually leaving you with about 15 seconds of game time to juggle kills with. Now, for the most part, this really isn't too much of an issue during the Easter egg steps, and you'll always have Donnie's stop timer field upgrade to pause any time loss for 1 full minute. Using this timer carefully during a boss fight is essential, however. Finally, the event operators can also give you a helping hand. Playing as any one of the turtles will give you 50% reduced damage from behind, similar to the turtle shell augment for Juggernog, and then playing as Splinter will give you an increased chance for the Slice of Pie power-up to drop.
Time to get to work.
Now on to the egg steps. There are a ton of good resources out there already, from people like Rothels and Dalek and so many other content creators, so I'm not going to go over each and every single step for the egg here. But the too long didn't watch version is that our objective is simply to get to the boss fight as soon as possible. So we don't really want to be spinning rounds unnecessarily here, as every round we progress cuts the timer a little bit shorter. To prepare for my run, I watched some of the scrappy crappy speedruns on Citadelle to get an idea of what an optimized version of the egg looks like. I've linked his Citadelle how-to video in the description, and I'd really urge you to check it out. He's currently setting world records across all of the BO6 maps and has a ton of experience to share. It would take a lot of practice to get the course route down, but there are things that you can do that will save you a bunch of time, and we're going to go into some of those now. The start of the run is pretty straightforward. We're going to grab the cheese, say hi to one of the mice, and then build up some points and initial scrap before heading up Deadshot's side to grab the first electricity rod, as well as the horseshoe from the barn there. Then we're going to shoot the cannon and grab Jug on our way into the castle. Once we're in the castle, you kind of have a bit of a choice here. You can either follow the true speedrun route, which would be going through the stamina up room and down through the undercroft. This gives you an opportunity to check the trap pages there as well before you've even got down to pack-a-punch. But for this situation, we're not going for a world record, we're just trying to be efficient with our run. So I chose to go straight down to pack, which is absolutely fine. The pages aren't always easy to see anyway until you've spoken to Craft, at which point they start glowing red. So it's a personal choice. If you're anything like me though, you're going to want to write down the page orders when you finally get there. Once you've opened up Pack-a-Punch and you've spoken to Craft, the best use of your time here is to start off the light incantation by shooting the crystals and picking up the brooch, as well as picking up the artifacts you're going to be using to build or upgrade the Raven Sword. If you haven't checked the trap pages already, now's a great time to do that before you reach round 10 and the stamps start dropping. You may also have time to check where some of the trap locations are and even get the first 1 or 2 traps done. This will be a huge help to you later on in the run. Now that you've reached round 10, it's a case of getting your head down and upgrading the swords whilst you finish off the incantations as quickly as possible. A good route to take is opening up the stag sword first so that you can head down to Quick Reviver and pick up the second of your electricity rods. You may also be able to fit in getting a trap done either in Quick Revive itself or in the Pack-a-Punch room. As soon as you see the round flip to 11, you want to be eyes open for another stamp so that you can open up the Lion Sword and take that down to Speed Cola side, where you can throw a Molotov at one of the pyres and a shock charge at the electricity box to pick up the final rod. The fire incantation and a new stamp are next up, so that you can get the Dragon Sword into the pedestal, King Arthur style, and then grabbing the fire from the cauldron on top of the castle parapets. It's important to upgrade the Stag Sword here, so that when we shoot ourselves down to the town square, we can do the electric incantation and open up the incantation box immediately. This is one of the themes of the run, in that we want to try and save toing and throwing from the castle to the town square as much as possible. Once you've opened up that electric incantation in the town square, you can use one of the 2 remaining fire cauldrons to speed your way back up to the castle and pick up the Raven Sword. A nice route to take now is to go and pick up the Raven Sword from the Knight's room and then flushing yourself using the quick portal down to the town square so you can immediately insert the Raven Sword and start doing the upgrade quest there. We can also use one of the cauldrons to get back up to the castle again quickly, although you're going to see in my room that I totally messed up by forgetting to grab the swords here. Once you have all the swords and the incantations completed, it's time to open up the statues with the weapon presentations and then start the Mystic Orb challenges. The electric trial is really straightforward, and I suggest you start there so that we're working back towards the castle. Molotovs can help for the fire trial. Stamina up really helps for the light trial. And then definitely remember to take the extra void incantation from the Knight's room on your way down to the Undercroft, as that will help you complete that last trial much more easily. You can use the Raven Sword special attack here to help, but I'm told that only the very initial phase of that special attack actually counts towards adding zombies to the trial, so don't rely on the long-term effect of the sword attack here. Unfortunately, Casimirs are also completely useless and don't do anything towards the trial. As soon as you finish the trials, you're in a great spot to pick up the Guardian key immediately. This point can be a little tight with timings because the zombies tend to disappear, but if you keep popping in and out of the Owl's office where you pick up the Guardian key, you should be able to pop off zombies as you see in the clip here. Then as soon as you've got the key, it's time to hightail it back down to the town square. If you have enough salvage ahead of the boss fight, then I'd really recommend grabbing a sentry gun, as they can be pretty handy both for boss damage but also collateral zombie damage that will help you keep your crank timer filling up whilst you're working on the boss. I chose the sword strat here, and I'd really encourage you to try it if you haven't already. It does great damage to the boss and almost entirely mitigates the danger of his long range attacks, which is particularly helpful when you're solo. If you're unfamiliar with the sword strategy for the boss, then essentially it involves standing in a small window that allows you to deal constant damage to him whilst his attacks go straight past you either side. It might take a little practice to get used to, but eventually you'll work out the tolerances of the window that you're supposed to stand in. You'll notice from the video that I'm allowing his forward movement against me to push me back, and that is my trigger for moving slightly to the right. As soon as I've done a few swipes of damage, I start pushing back towards him, and I repeat the process over and over and over again. Now, this was the first time that I was trying this strategy, and as you'll see, I make a bunch of mistakes. When I did, my first thought was to try and get back in position as soon as possible. If I found that I was taking too much damage, I made some distance between me and the boss, and I allowed myself to heal, running loops around the arena. As I mentioned earlier, this boss fight has probably the hardest bit of timer management across any of the Cranked maps. You'll need to make sure you have a full charge of Donnie's timeout field upgrade ready to go as soon as he enters his immune phase. This will help you survive the approximately 15 seconds before zombies start to spawn in, and you can start to fill up your timer again. There should be more than enough zombies during the immune phase to help build you up another timer charge, but if not, don't worry. As you enter the next damage phase on the boss, you will continue to kill zombies via collateral damage whilst you're hitting the boss. Obviously, you can also do what I chose to do, which is take in extra full powers available via the power keg or raindrops gobble guns. And that's it. I hope that's helped you earn another Cranked challenge card, or maybe even completed your set. If you'd like to see more videos on the other Cranked maps or any other zombies content, then let me know in the comments.